All right, breaking news. Luis Robert, the outfielder for the Chicago White Sox, young player, exciting Gold Glove winner in 2020. He's going to be out 3 to 4 months. A grade 3 hip flexor strain. That means it's a complete tear. So he will be out 3 to 4 months. So the White Sox are going to have to find their way through this thing without their young stud player, who is in fact the reigning Gold Glove winner. Let's first get Kenny White in, Wizard of Odds. He's out there in Vegas. What are the Vegas implications on this in terms of, say, the White Sox, their odds to win the division, to go to the World Series, to win the American League? What kind of impact does this injury have on the Southsiders?
EK, very, very small. Pitching is the name of the game. There's probably going to be a little bit of an adjustment if maybe a White Sox were favored to win the Central around 2 to 1. Maybe they're 5 to 2, 3 to 1 at this point. Still in second place. And they'll get Robert back later on in the season. But he's a right-handed hitter, great against lefties. But they got a couple other guys that can fill in. That the slack is not going to be that much of a difference. Maybe 5 to 10 cents, not even that far. I'm going to say 5 cents on the money line in each game without Robert.
All right, so let's say he's out somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 games, give or take. When you look at the White Sox win total, how many games does that impact their win total? You know, you got one player for about 100 games. It's not like they have a hole. They get to plug somebody else in. Is that worth, in your mind, 3 games, 5 games, 7 games, 1 game, 10 games? How many games is not having your Gold Glover in center field worth over the next, say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 games?
You know, that's a good point. Defensively, he is so good that he's probably going to save you a couple of games defensively. And I'm just thinking about the offensive numbers. Over 100 games, maybe 3 games. So a guy like him has got a 5-game difference. And when you think about WAR numbers, I would have to say that's about what Luis Roberts' maybe number should be. Last year, it was 1.5. So far this year in 23 games, it was 1.1. So 115 games would be 5.5 wins. So that's what his WAR is. I believe it would be about 5 games to the White Sox win total.
Excellent job, Kenny White, on the Vegas perspective. Given the White Sox injury to their player, Luis Robert, going to be out 3 to 4 months with a grade 3 hip flexor strain. That is a complete tear. Thank you very much, Kenny. All right. This has not been a great season in terms of injuries for the Chicago White Sox. You see there, when you're starting to see 60 days and out 12 to 16 weeks, and these are big names, you know, these are guys that are impact players, especially those top 2 names for you, and now they're going to have to find their way through it without Luis Robert. All right, what's the fantasy angle here? Frank Stample jumping aboard here. So I have Luis Robert. I'm not going to have him now for the next 12, 16 weeks. From a fantasy perspective, what do I do? And when you think about who's going to replace him, and even if it's a daily type of thing, is there value in the replacement that may be a guy that most people haven't heard of but can step in this particular lineup?
Yeah, this is a huge loss from a fantasy baseball perspective. Luis Robert drafted as a top 10, top 15-ish outfielder coming into the fantasy baseball season. He wasn't hitting for much power this year, but a .316 batting average, 4 steals, definitely useful from a fantasy perspective. But now I think the hope for the White Sox is that maybe he gets back sometime in September and they can get him up to snuff by the time the MLB playoffs come around. So from a fantasy perspective, you can stash him on the IL for as long as you can, but chances are you're going to need those IL spots. There are so many players hurt right now that I think in redraft leagues, if you need to, you can go ahead and drop Luis Robert.
All right,
if
but
push comes to shove there.
Great point. That's what I was going to go. So now, let's say I'm going to drop him, because again, we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 games. Yeah. In most leagues, when you look at the percentages, who's the guy I can go get if I got to get somebody here?
The name that pops off the screen, and look, in shallower leagues, he'll probably be available still. Alex Kirilloff for the Minnesota Twins, 4 homers, 9 RBIs over the weekend. But if you do play in some shallower formats, some deeper formats rather, if Alex Kirilloff is already owned in your league, then I'm looking at Willie Calhoun, who's got a 9-game hitting streak for the Texas Rangers. He's 40% rostered. Tyler O'Neill for the St. Louis Cardinals. He has some pop and some speed as well. He's going to strike out quite a bit, so the batting average is going to be lower there. Raimel Tapia, a name for the Colorado Rockies. He's been leading off for them. He's got a 7-game hitting streak. He's 58% rostered on CBS. So 3 names there I'm looking at: Tapia, Tyler O'Neill, Willie Calhoun. If you play in a shallower league, definitely Alex Kirilloff. But if you're just looking within the White Sox team, I'm thinking Leori Garcia is going to get some time in center field. Adam Engel, you guys throw up the graphic. He should be returning from the 10-day IL soon. Doesn't really offer much in terms of a fantasy perspective. I think the biggest takeaway for the White Sox here is that their prospect, Andrew Vaughn, is probably going to get more playing time as a result of this, and he's been slowly coming along. He's got off to a really slow start. They haven't been playing him every day, but I think this is really good news for Andrew Vaughn.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.